It's not like you can close your ears and be like, oh, can't hear anything. I just heard somebody say music is haram and then I just stopped listening to it. I felt like I had a radio on in my mind constantly. Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name is Yugeshni and I make videos here on YouTube about faith, health and mindset. Today I'm going to be sharing my experience with you on trying to give up music. So let's get into it. To start, I think it's probably good to have some background or context, should I say, as to how music was in my life to begin with. And that might sound like a really silly statement because everybody is exposed to music. That's just the norm in the world that we live in, particularly now when we have such easy access to music. For me personally, I'm from South Africa, and I feel like the country and the culture that I was raised in, music just kind of goes hand in hand. Like, music is just so much a part of life over there. And not to say that it's not the same here in New Zealand, but given that I was raised there, that is the kind of mindset I was raised with, where music is a part of your life. I mean, for people outside of Africa, like, you might be surprised when you come to South Africa and if you were to see a protest, you wouldn't even realize it was a protest because in Africa, when they protest, it's like singing and dancing in the street. You think this is a party, but it's a protest. Like, that's how much music is ingrained into the lifestyle in South Africa. And for me, in my own family, in my own personal life, I have literally grown up listening to music. The biggest two influences in my personal life would have been my father and my brother, both of whom really loved music as well. They would usually be the ones who were playing it, and they liked different genres of music. So I was really exposed to music from different eras, from different genres. It was really only my late 20s when I started to cut back on music. And that is because that is when I entered Islam. So it's no surprise that actually me coming into Islam even made me think about the effect of music. Because honestly, like I said, I was exposed to it my whole life. I never ever thought of it as good or bad. It was just music. You either listen to it or you don't. And for most part, you don't really have a choice, right? Like, if you're going to an event, a birthday party, and music is playing, you're going to hear it. It's not like you can close your ears and be like, oh, can't hear anything. Like, if you're out in public and music is being played, you're gonna hear it. You're being exposed to it. So it was never really something that I thought I needed to limit or control, because I didn't think that it was a big deal at all. When I converted, I was 25 years old, and by that point, music was a big part of my life. Like, I would wake up and there would be music playing in my head. Like, I felt like I had a radio on in my mind constantly. Like, from the moment that I woke up in the morning to the moment I went to sleep at night, there would be some song or multiple songs playing in my mind. Always. Every single day, because I had become used to it. That had just become the norm for me, like, to constantly be hearing music in my mind. I never really paid attention to that. I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. The song is playing. Let's just go with it. And if the music wasn't playing in my head, then it would be playing in the car on the way to work or university. Like, when I used to take the bus to uni, it would take me an hour to get to university. So I'd be listening to music for that whole hour. Same thing on my commute back, listening to music for that whole hour. Sometimes, if it was a new song that I really liked, I would actually listen to that one song on repeat for the entire journey. So it's like literally repeating that one song over and over and over and over again. Even when that music stopped playing, when those earphones were not in my ears, that song was still playing in my mind. And I never thought about any of this. To me, that was so totally normal and totally okay. Like, I didn't see an issue with that. It's only now that I'm much older that it becomes so obvious to me that I was actually addicted to music, to the point where I could not turn it off even in my mind. So even if there was no music playing around me, there's music playing in my head. It was a distraction, if nothing else. Every year when I go into Ramadan and I set goals, most of my goals are to help me to focus on what I want to achieve during Ramadan. And I realized that this was one of the many things that was blocking my focus, because I'm listening to these songs in my head. And so I started to research more on how to actually stop this from happening. It was more a case of me being tired of hearing this radio on in my head all the time. I think that was really the triggering factor, is that I'm just so tired of hearing this music all the time. I feel like I cannot think clearly. I feel like I cannot focus because I constantly have this white noise of music in my mind that I cannot turn off. And I could not figure out how to get off this. Like, I just didn't know how to stop music. I'm like, is it even possible to have a life without music? So it's actually been a couple of years since I made the decision that I wanted to stop listening to music altogether. That sounds like an easy thing to do, but it actually wasn't. And when I had come to this decision, I was kind of already off it for a while, so I wasn't behaving in the same way that I used to, where every morning I would turn, whatever playlist on in my commute. I wasn't doing that anymore. In fact, I had signed out of Spotify and any other music streaming services. So I wasn't like intentionally accessing music. But of course, if I was in a car with somebody else and they were playing it, then I'm listening to it. If I'm going to the gym, it's playing there in the gym, so I'm listening to it. If I go to the supermarket, there's music playing in the supermarket, so I'm listening to it. So I wasn't actively like going to listen to it, but I was still like hearing it. Slowly, I started to become more intentional as to what I was hearing. So as I said, I signed out of Spotify, but I would find that I would slowly start creeping back. For example, if I went on a road trip, I would like instinctively start making my road trip playlist of what I was going to listen to for like this 3-4 hour road trip, or however long the road trip was going to be, because that had become the norm. So I started to see myself going back to old patterns without even realizing it. And, not really thinking much about it, be like, oh, it's not a big deal, I'll just listen to it for this road trip and then I'll come back and go back to what I was doing before, which is not listening to it. Like, it's not a big deal, right? That's how I was operating. So I wasn't actually being very strict about it. But because I had sort of stopped listening to it in my daily life and I would come back to it every now and then, I actually started to notice the effect even more. Because it's like a drug, right? If you're constantly consuming this drug, you probably don't even realize the effect that it's having on you anymore. But once you come off it, and even if it was easy for you to come off it, and then you get a taste of it again, you notice the symptoms straight away. And that's kind of what happened to me, because I think I went like an entire year or something like that, just like not listening to music at all. And then all of a sudden something would have happened and we went on a trip or something triggered it and I listened to a bit of music. And then I noticed that the radio was on in my head again. That's all I could hear in my mind, is this music playing all the time. And that was really how I came to the realization that music is distracting me and it's taking me away from the things that I actually want to focus on. And that was purely the reason why I decided to quit. I wish I could say to you that I'm such a good Muslim that I just heard somebody say music is haram and then I just stopped listening to it. I wish I could tell you that, but that is not the truth. The truth is simply that it was blocking my focus, not just with Islamic things that I was trying to focus on, but things in my everyday life. And I didn't want that distraction anymore. I didn't want to be controlled by music. And that was another point that I wanted to make, is that I actually came to realize that music influences your emotions. That never occurred to me before. Yet it's so blaringly obvious, right? Like when you see any movie, if somebody's going through a breakup, they play breakup songs. If somebody's feeling sad, it's all like sad music in the background. And when it comes to film and video, music is used intentionally to influence your emotions. When you start watching things now, if you start paying attention to what you are hearing, not just what you are seeing, you will start to realize that you're being told how to feel. You are being told how to feel because of the music. The music either makes you happy, it makes you sad, or whatever emotion they want you to feel, there's certain music that they will use to make you feel that emotion. And like, to me, that was not obvious at the time. But now it's like, yeah, of course that's obvious. Even if you think about the way in which we use music today, like a lot of people will have different playlists for different things. Like I said, when I would go on a road trip, I would have a specific playlist that I would make for the road trip. If you were going to the gym, you'd probably, choose songs that were really gonna get you pumped and hyped, And if you're going through some sort of difficulty, you're probably gonna listen to like really sad, somber songs. And that encourages that emotion in you. Music influences your emotion. Music has an effect on your mind, and there's no doubt about that. Recently, I was at a women's only function. And like I said to you, I've given up music for such a long time. And at this women's only party, there was music being played. It became obvious to me that, as I said, music influences your emotions, but it kind of makes you like feel like an entirely different person. For example, like, I'm surrounded by all these sisters, and when the music comes on, it's almost as though they become transformed into someone totally different. And I'm not saying they become bad people. I'm just saying it brings out a whole other side of their personality, the whole, like, they become sassy or, whatever it is. It triggers something in people when you see them on the dance floor as opposed to when you see them at any other time. And that really made me think. And one of the girls that I was with actually said that, because when we were leaving this event, and because it was girls only, everybody had taken their hijab and stuff off. And then when everyone was leaving, they put their hijabs and their scarves and everything back on, and they're leaving. And she made the comment saying like, oh, everybody looks so like innocent and pious now. And I was just thinking, and she made it sound like it was a joke. But that really made me think. I was like, okay, so what actually happened there? Why did we behave in that way when the music was on? And now that the music is off, we've gone this way, like we're behaving totally differently. And I was like, is it not obvious that music influences your actions? When the music is there, it is encouraging you to move a certain way, to be a certain way. That to me was like another light bulb moment. I was like, okay, this music is actually influencing us beyond just distraction. It's actually bringing out a certain part of us. And that could potentially be dangerous, right? Or at least I see that as being potentially dangerous, especially because when you are in that sort of setting, when there's, loud music, and as I said, I was in that setting. I'm not saying that I'm above anyone or better than anyone. When I was in that setting, like the music makes you feel really hype, really happy, really energetic, and you're dancing, and it's almost as though you have a high. And really, that is what's happening. You are having a high because of the music. All this dopamine has been released in your brain, and you're having an amazing time. And the thing is, you can become addicted to that. You would often find that people who go through difficulty, who have hard lives, who are struggling with whatever in their lives, music is kind of like their outlet. It's their time to like relax and get away from their problems. And you'll hear a lot of people say that about music, that it helps them to get away from their problems. You know what else people have a similar saying about? Drugs and alcohol, that they drink or they do drugs to get away from their problems, to relax, to feel better, to just have that little break from their difficult life. Maybe music actually falls into the same category as all of these other drugs, because if it's having this effect on me, that's the same effect that any other drug would have, then maybe I need to start viewing music as a drug. And so that's what I do now. And it's about how much of this drug am I consuming? Like, how much do I want to consume? And after that ladies' party that I went to, I really, thought about it quite a lot. And I realized that I don't want it. I actually don't want it at all. I don't want music in my life. I don't even want to catch a song like when I go to the supermarket or the mall. I actually don't want to listen to music anymore, because it is such a distraction. It is such an influence, and I don't like being influenced. I don't like it because I feel like something else is controlling me, and I want to be in control of me. I don't want somebody to tell me how to feel or to influence my emotions. I want my own emotions to come out naturally. I want to be in control of that. I don't want something else controlling me, which is my main incentive now for not going back to music. And I think it's important to say that when I made the decision to stop listening to music many years ago, I actually didn't tell anybody about this. And so everybody around me had no idea that I no longer wanted to listen to music. And I think that that was a poor decision on my part, because had I told them, then I probably wouldn't have been as exposed over the last few years as I have been. So I guess now that I'm making this video as public knowledge that I no longer want to listen to music. But seriously though, I've realized the negative effect of it on my mind, and I don't want that controlling me anymore. I just want to be free of it. I don't want to be influenced by it. I don't want to be distracted by it anymore. But let's be realistic. I don't think it's possible in this day and age to never ever hear music. So like I said, I'm not intentionally going and seeking it out. I'm not going anywhere to listen to music, but inevitably there are going to be times that I will hear it. When I go to the supermarket to get my groceries, when I go to the gym, when I'm in the elevator, when I'm on hold on the phone. All of these places are places where music is being played. And unfortunately, I cannot choose when I'm deaf and when I'm not. That's the most difficult thing, I think, about music, is that you don't have a choice. It's not like a smell. You can like close your nose and choose not to smell something. But you can't do that with music. You can't close your ears, right? And not hear it. Like, that's not an option. So yeah, it is kind of difficult, because the society, the world that we live in is full of music everywhere. The truth is that I'll never ever be able to have a life where I hear no music at all. Like, I don't see that as being possible because of the current world. But I don't think that means that I should give up and that I shouldn't try. Rather, I think it's about being more intentional. As I said, I'm not intentionally going and seeking it out. And I think that has a big effect, because like I said, it's about your dosage of drug, right? If you're not having high doses of it, it's not obviously not going to have as great an effect on you. So I am not taking the drug anymore. I might be exposed to it, and I will try and limit that as much as I can, but that is not in my control. What is in my control is what I can do about it. So I'm focusing on that. I would say if you are someone who's trying to give up music for whatever reason, especially if you're someone who has your entire day planned out around music, like for a lot of us that is the case. We have a morning playlist, we have an evening playlist, we have music to relax us, we have music to hype us up. We're literally relying on music to get us through our day. There are people who are like this. And to those people, if you have decided that you don't want music in your life anymore, I would say get off it gradually. If it has become habitual for you, it will be difficult to just give up cold turkey. So yeah, you'd need to take it one day at a time. And, the best thing I did was just signing out of Spotify. I would tell myself, oh, it's okay, because I listen to podcasts as well on Spotify. So I'm like, no, I don't want to leave that door open. If I've made the decision, if I've committed to not listening to music, I need to close all the doors. So sign out of Spotify, sign out of, Apple Music or whatever else the music streaming services are. Just sign out of all of them. See how you go. Even if it is just for 1 week. Just see the effect that it's having. Because once you understand the effect that it's having on you personally, that will be enough incentive for you to want to get off it. Just as it was for me. Because seriously, seeing that effect, like, I can't go back now. I don't want to go back. Like I said, I don't want to be controlled or influenced by music. I want to just be off that. I want my emotions to be my own emotions, not emotions that you've influenced me to have. I want to be free of that. So that has been why and how I've slowly but surely given up music. I hope this video has been helpful for you in some way. If you are someone who's trying to get off music, please share your experience. Tell me what worked for you, what didn't work for you, or just generally how it's going for you. Post a comment below and I will definitely read it. I will catch you in the next video. Bye for now.